looking for you. I will take that head from your shoulders and hang it from the gates of Endor!
This close.
Stop right there!
Yikes, 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 yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So yeah, Dimitri has officially lost it. This is what happens when Dimitri gets out of control. And remember, he just literally crushed a man's head with a single, like, squeeze. So when he pushed Byleth out of the way and did not break her bones, that must have taken a lot of restraint. But yeah, Edelgard literally came this close to losing everything just because of a thrown spear. Dimitri MVP. Okay, well deserved. Let's go. His motivation is maxed out after nearly killing Edelgard. Makes sense.
Before I break your neck, there is one thing I must ask you.
Stay out of my way.
I don't recall giving you permission to speak. Answer my question. That is all you have left to do. Flame Emperor. No. Edelgard. Tell me now. Why did you cause such a tragedy? You killed your own mother, and yet you haven't even had the decency to stop and consider the reasons behind your actions. Have you?
I already told you I had nothing to do with that.
It was foolish to think I could reason with a lowly beast. Your Majesty, no!
So he is wrong about exactly how much she was involved, but considering that she has known who was actually behind the tragedy for years now and hasn't said a peep to anyone, I don't have any sympathy. I'm sorry.
You are a monster.
Come, Hubert.
To flee is futile, wicked girl. The Church of Seros will raise its entire army against you until you have been captured and punished. You have defiled the holy tomb, dishonored the goddess, and humiliated your brethren. That crime will never be erased. Even if you burn in the eternal flames and spill all of your blood into the goddess's soil. Come, Professor. Let us return and decide upon our next course of action.
We weren't able to defeat her.
Your Highness.
I will kill Edelgard with my own hands. I swear it! Let's return to the monastery, Professor. It is clear what must be done.
So, he's finally shown his true face. The same Dimitri I've seen once before. A beast who loves spilling
Annette
blood.
is still smiling. That's my girl.
You're wrong. I'm sure of it. There has to be an explanation.
I knew he'd been carrying the burden of that tragedy. I understand his thirst for revenge. His family and closest friends, all massacred right in front of him. But it still doesn't add up. There must be more that we don't know.
That's true. Dimitri didn't come unhinged until after the Flame Emperor was unmasked.
You don't think there's some connection between those two, do you?
The leaders of the church have misused its creed to fulfill their true desire. To rule the world.
Okay.
They have fooled the people of Fodlan.
There is so much bullshit in this war declaration, in this speech. First of all, desire to rule the world. Rhea literally does not want to be in charge. Both in Verdant Wind and in Silver Snow, she makes it very clear she just wants to resurrect Sophis and let, you know, ruling over the world and keeping everybody in line be her problem again. Which is actually something she has in common with Edelgard, because Edelgard also does not want to be an emperor. If it were up to her, she would just be lounging around, lazing around all day, eating sweets. Literally, she does not enjoy having to work. But she has her own reasons, and those reasons being that when she was a child, she was experimented on, same as Lysithea. Actually, Lysithia's experiments came before. And then later Edelgard was experimented on to be given 2 crests, and one of those crests being the Crest of Flames, which is the same crest that Sophis and Byleth have. So literally the blood of the goddess. And the problem is that this also killed or crippled all of Edelgard's other siblings, and she wants to get rid of the crest so nobody has to go through that ever again, and so crests will be useless. Okay, fine, but you know what? She is literally basing all of her information on a 1,000-year-old long game of telephone, and is getting some of her information from the people who are actually responsible for the death of the goddess. So, yeah, her information is not the best, and she never seeks out more information, which is the difference between her and Claude. Claude also distrusts the church, he also distrusts Rhea, he also does not like them. But he seeks out the truth and changes his mind once he finds it. Edelgard, on the other hand, is convinced she already has the truth, she already knows everything, she knows better than everybody else, and she is so single-mindedly focused on her goal that she does not see the forest for the trees. So yeah, rule the world. Rhea does not want to rule the world. Sedef literally was not even involved with the church until less than 20 years ago. And as I said, Macule and Indek have already fucked off.
Long ago, they divided the Empire to create a kingdom, and then divided that kingdom to create an alliance.
Once again, false. Luke, the first king of Fargus, fought for independence from the Empire, and then the church came in to mediate after he had won, in order to make sure that not more blood was spilled and to just get the border dispute out of the way. Similar thing with the Alliance and the Kingdom, and the actual people who were involved in creating those disputes were the Adjutants, aka Edelgard's allies.
They did all of this to make the masses bicker amongst themselves. They caused instability in order to reinforce their own authority.
Note how the church is literally sending out its knights and its students to rout bandits and ensure stability.
They gathered gold and lived in extravagance. How? By preying on the devotion of those who wished for the goddess's salvation.
We literally learn from NPCs in the game that you are supposed to abstain riches when you enter the church, and we can see Rhea's bedroom, for example. It is not fancy at all. At least not as fancy as you would expect from somebody who's hoarding riches to live in extravagance. It's actually fairly simple.
Those corrupt hypocrites cannot lead Fodlan to true peace. Their foul belief system must be torn asunder so that true wisdom may finally prevail.
The true wisdom, as I said, being what she has gained of the knowledge of Fodlan based on a 1,000-year-long game of telephone passed down from emperor to emperor, and the lies from the Adjutants. So, yeah. This ain't it, Edelgard. Like, there's so much bullshit in this entire speech. Like, don't, just stop.
And so, I have decided, by order of the Adrestian Emperor, Edelgard von Hresvelg, the Empire hereby declares war on the Church of Seros.
Good luck with that. We'll get to that.
I cannot believe it. Let us recount the situation as it stands, Professor. After you returned from the Holy Tomb, the Adrestian Empire declared war upon the Church of Seros, as well as our allies. Edelgard demanded her own father relinquish the throne, and then assumed the position of Emperor. She has deemed the Church of Seros to be an evil of this world, and is calling upon the people of Fodlan to help her tear it down. I must discuss our response to this declaration with the Archbishop, after the Knights return from their investigation. Until then, watch over the students. See that they remain calm.
They're There's a dogfight going on outside my house right now.
The Empire has declared war on the Church of Seros. We knew this day would come, sooner or later.
What's going to happen? We can't afford to be optimistic. It's entirely possible the kingdom will be invaded.
Settle yourself, Ingrid. We need to carefully consider our options.
We can't just act rashly. That will only make things worse.
Yeah, so, like my guardian says, Black Eagle Silver Snow also has a nice scene showing how she assumes power. Yeah, basically, if you're playing Black Eagles and you want to go into Edelgard's route, you need to talk to her in chapter 11, and you need to go with her to Anbar to watch her coronation, in which she basically talks to her father and is like, I need you to hand over the crown to me, and her father goes, yeah, I'll do it. I'm old and frail anyway, and I'll let you go. And I'm sorry for what the Prime Minister, aka Ferdinand's father, and the Garfins did to you. Here's the problem with that. When the Dark Mages who experimented on Lysithea were sent to House Ordelia, they were sent under the Emperor's orders. So he was aware that those experiments were happening. That was not just the Prime Minister. He was aware of this for quite a while. We're later going to learn a bit more about the insurrection that led to the invasion of House Ordelia. But suffice to say, the reason why House Rim, who was actually the instigator of this insurrection, wanted to succeed from the Empire was that the Emperor was trying to amass too much power on himself, concentrate too much power on himself. And yeah, the idea of giving Edelgard a second crest was to make her undefeatable. Why would the Prime Minister want an undefeatable emperor? Like, that would only make his position even worse. So I am actually not fully convinced that it was the Prime Minister who was responsible for Edelgard's experiments, especially because the only person who ever claims that is Edelgard and Gilbert, both of whom are expert liars, who lie to you throughout the entire first half of the game. So their word means absolute shit to me. And also note that every single person who gets a double crest gets white hair, like loses their natural hair color and gets white hair and super pale eyes. We see that with Lysithea, and her lifespan was cut short. We also know that Ionius also has white hair and is super frail, although he apparently wasn't always like that, obviously. So the question is this with him just old age, or did he try to actually get crest experimentation himself and it failed? And was Edelgard basically his last-ditch attempt? Because those are the two options. Either the Prime Minister ordered the experiments on the Imperial children, which makes no sense, like I already said, or it was actually the Emperor himself who decided, you know what, if I'm not gonna become the undefeatable emperor, at least I'm gonna make one of my children that. The game never 100% confirms or denies anything in that regard. It's all up to personal speculation at this point. Personally, for me, it doesn't matter very much because Edelgard has been working with the Garfins and covering for them for so long, and they have caused so much damage to Byleth and whatever house she teaches that I'm like, I don't care. You have lied to me for an entire school year. Your allies killed my father and tried to abduct one of my students and use her blood for experiments. Like, we are done. There is no coming back from this. But yeah, one of the things that I like about the previous scene that we saw with the blue lines, the first thing they're worried about is Dimitri. They're not worried about the war or whatever Edelgard said. They're worried about Dimitri. This is one of the reasons why I like this house so much. They care so much about each other, even if they treat each other like ass sometimes.
Once we've ascertained the situation, we must return to Ferdiad. Your Highness.
And it gets even more hilarious because in Three Hopes we find out that in Three Hopes the timeline is a bit different. In Three Hopes, Edelgard actually tries to implement her reforms without invading the church at first, and the church is perfectly fine with it. Like when she goes, yeah, I want to abolish the importance of crests in my territory, the church is like, okay, that's cool. So this entire war wasn't needed. She could just, if it was really just about abolishing the crest system for her, she could just have done the reforms in her own country as she wanted. Nobody in the church would have given a fuck. But no, we're invading all of Fodlands. You know, because the Fargus and the Alliance are not individual countries. They were part of Adrestia. They should be part of Adrestia again. In the very first time we meet her, she calls them pale offshoots of the Alliance. This is not just a war against the church, this is also a war of conquest. And that is the other part where she lost me, because it's like, you know, you could just implement these changes in your own territory. You don't have to invade 2 separate nations to do it. But she does. Unprovoked in some cases. And I'm like, yeah, no, this ain't it, chief. Anyway, I believe this was our new chapter save. So as soon as we get the chance to get past these cutscenes, we're gonna save again. And then
Part 1.
That's gonna be it for
Clouds.
today.
Lone Moon. To war. Together, the people of Fodlan relish the beauty of the brilliant moon overhead as another year ends. They recall sad partings and new acquaintances alike, but each person must still walk their chosen path alone. With each day, the presence of spring grows stronger, and yet a lone moon still haunts the sky, a silent reminder perhaps of some inescapable truth.
And we have the deer from the other murals again, this time going off to war with the man who it saved and who saved them. So yeah, I love this little storyline that goes through the mural. And as you can see, this month is drastically shorter than the months before.
Unforgivable! I cannot fathom that the Adrestian Empire would embark on such a violent course of action.
The fault is my own. I failed to see the wickedness within Edelgart's heart. There is no question on that front. She clearly wishes to conquer all of Fodlan. And in order to achieve her own selfish ambitions, she plotted with ill-meaning strangers and defiled the Holy Tomb. Or perhaps her ambitions are even grander than we know. Perhaps she is planning to make herself a false deity by demonizing the Church of Seros.
Fun fact, after the time skip, if you're playing Edelgart's route, she is always found in the same spots where you usually find Rhea. Coincidence?
Adrestia received its very name through a divine oracle. To injure the goddess is a sin most foul that shall not be forgiven, nor forgotten. We must stop the Empire, and quickly.
I have returned, Rhea.
Welcome back, Shamir. Were you able to discern the Empire's movements?
Their main troops are marching towards Garreg Mach. It is said that they will join forces with Edelgard's army and arrive within 2 weeks.
2 weeks? That is not enough time. It will require all of our efforts just to prepare our defenses before then. We must send notice to all surrounding villages at once. We must order the residents of Garreg Mach to flee for their lives.
It will be done.
Professor, listen closely. If our enemy invades the monastery, I will have no choice but to stand upon the battlefield. If something happens to me, I am entrusting my sacred duties to you. You must have guessed it by now. The truth of who you are. Or perhaps I should say, your lost memories are surely beginning to return. I have acted all these long years as a mere proxy for you. But the duty is yours, and yours alone. Only you can lead the people of Fodlan.
So yeah, as I said, she does not want to rule.
Rhea, please. You You must tell me all that you know. I beg of you. That one is the progenitor god. Am I correct?
In a sense. Our dear professor is a vessel. One who carries the power of the progenitor god within. In time, the vessel will become one with the power contained within, and the progenitor god shall return to this world.
I see. I trust that you are aware of the questionable nature of this experiment. But I suppose there is no turning back.
Well, the choice was between let the baby die or try to save it, so I'm gonna say we did the right thing.
I ask that you help our friend. And in doing so, help her. I am waiting and hoping for the moment when our creator rules this wayward land once more.
I understand. As ever, I will take you at your word.
Lady Rhea, brother, I will do my part as well.
Flame, were you eavesdropping? Regardless, I am glad to hear it. You owe your life to the professor after all. And in the end, they may prove to be our brethren.
You have my gratitude, Seteth. And you as well, Flame. As followers of the progenitor god, it is up to us to see our mission through.
And I think we actually just have a tea time over there, if I wasn't mistaken. Yeah. So, who's the unlucky one? Constance. Host tea party, let's go. Albany and Barry, let's go.
I am sorry you could find no one but me to share your tea with. I shall endeavor to hold up my end of the conversation nonetheless. You ought not to have gone to such lengths to prepare my preferred tea. Allow me to express my deepest thanks.
So yeah, most awkwardly timed birthday ever.
My hands are trembling.
Hopes for your future?
Yes. What? Yes. What? I may weep. Tea parties such as this were once so commonplace for me. I am ashamed to have not appreciated them fully at the time. I shall take my leave now. I hope that I have not wasted too much of your time.
Nah, it was only about a minute and a half. You're good, Constance. Alright, so this is where we are going to end today's session. Tomorrow we are going to play through all of chapter 12 because as you can see it is very short. And we're going to do the beginning of chapter 13. Which means tomorrow we'll also see my favorite cutscene in the entire game. And we're going to see Dimitri at his real worst. If you think that what you saw today was his worst, not quite yet. Anyway, for now, this is going to be it. I hope you guys had some fun. And I hope to see you guys again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central European time. Until then, have a good one, guys, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye!